as I'm working with couples, it's tends to be, and this question is from a gal, and it's really about, what can I do to grow in my sense of sexual confidence? Okay?
Mm.
Like there's this sense of insecurity and inadequacy and just not knowing how to own that part of my identity, how to engage it with confidence and boldness, and that insecurity maybe causes to avoid connecting or pursuing or so yeah, could you maybe just take a little bit and talk about uh, what a woman can do in order to try to bolster, develop, make space for settling into her own sense of sexual identity and confidence around her sexuality?
Yeah, I think I first just want to normalize the, how universal that this is. And I think it is in varying degrees depending on how womanhood and sexuality was conceptualized throughout girlhood into development. And that if you've grown up with kind of wrong messages about the beauty of your sexuality, the beauty of your body, then that even makes it more difficult to kind of settle into healthy sexuality in adulthood. Some things that are coming to mind is one, being able to sit with what are your specific kind of insecurities. The what is kind of the root of kind of what you're afraid of or what feels uncomfortable to you, maybe. And so anything that you feel uncomfortable with kind of tells a story about opportunities for growth. So like, for example, if you have a lot of discomfort with your body and your body does not feel, it's hard for you to kind of accept that your body is beautiful or desirable, and you find yourself criticizing your body a lot, or when your spouse compliments you, your beauty, you kind of dismiss it, or it's hard to receive that. Well, that is going to be that's going to impact how you're able to kind of inhabit your own body and your sexuality. And so I think being able to embrace the beauty of your body and to be able to work through your own kind of body image wounds, possibly. Um, I think being able to give yourself permission to think about sex, because for women, our minds are complicated places with a lot going on. There's a lot of traffic control going on up here. And so I think that it's just very natural for the majority of women to experience that they're like, just days go by and like sex may not even occur to you. And so kind of making it intentional, that part of cultivating your own sensuality and your own sexuality is to make space in your life to think about your spouse, to think about sex, to think about the last time you connected with your spouse, to just make space mentally for that. I think another part of sexual confidence is being able to communicate what you need, what you want, what feels good. And I think that that is very vulnerable. People, we experience that as very vulnerable. Individuals do, to even be able to say this feels good, or I want this, or I desire this, that can be very intimidating to communicate that to your spouse. And so I think that part of building confidence is taking risk and sharing, and kind of sharing honestly what you feel, what you want. And then as your spouse responds to that, then that's going to build more confidence and being able to just be comfortable in your sexuality. As far as the other thing I'm thinking of is noticing your own femininity and the things that help you feel connected to your femininity and your sensuality in a beautiful way, that God created your femininity, created that to be a really a nutritious, vital part of your relationship with your spouse. And so, the more that you can connect with the beauty of your femininity and the way that God created you and the different things that that might, you know, maybe that looks like having space to relax and go on a walk and just be able to enjoy nature. Maybe that looks like, and this is very maybe practical, but I'm going to invest, in some nice pajamas that make me feel comfortable and beautiful and make me feel good in my skin. Kind of these little things that can really make a big impact in a woman's confidence in her sensuality, femininity, and how that plays into her sexuality.
Totally, totally. I think about different, that self-awareness piece of being aware of the things that help me feel sexy. And that, again, there can be so much cultural training, church cultural training of avoiding being sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's so much kind of focus on rather putting the responsibility for male purity, sexual purity on women, and making it their job or responsibility to kind of keep men pure, as it were. That the sense of uh, feeling desirable, looking desirable, having a sense of attractiveness or feeling sexy is a bad thing. And so I need to counteract that in every way, shape, or form that I possibly can. And then to come into marriage, be like, okay, so now how do I embrace feeling sexy and being seductive of my husband and pursuing him and feel okay with having those feelings and lean into and develop that. There can be a lot of current going one direction to try to reverse and go the other direction and think about what does it look like for me to embrace this and to be like, okay, how do I affirm this part of who I am? And how do I affirm the playful, flirtatious, seductive kind of pursue the attractions of my spouse kind of dynamic? And what are the things that help me feel good in that? And maybe you could speak just a little bit about ways in which gals can counteract that, maybe that uh, trend or that piece or the kind of inculcated mindset of not being sexy in order to be okay and embrace that, pursue that within their marriage relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it is very God honoring to be modest, right? And in a culture where feminine sexuality is so displayed in a provocative, degrading, kind of lustful way, I think that growing up myself in the church as a teenager, kind of the message was kind of that I internalized is basically like your body's dangerous. And so kind of, cover it up and don't draw too much attention to yourself and, kind of, I don't know, kind of this sense of your body's beauty. I think, unfortunately, the message that gets sent is kind of your body's beauty is bad and brings bad things versus the sense of your body is really beautiful and it deserves to be honored. What does that look like for it to be honored? And so, anyway, I think, moving into marriage where there is this space for your sexuality to be expressed, I think being able to just what you said, affirm God's design of your sexuality, that, being able to accept that He made you a sexual being and that your sexuality is not, it's not externalized from you and only about your spouse's desire for your sexual. Not if a if kind of if you've been taught to detach from your sexuality, detach from your sexual desires, and don't be sexy, then you come into marriage, and what I've seen a lot is that the tendency is to lean into, okay, I'm basically the husband's sexuality is the whole sexuality of the relationship. And that isn't how God designed it to be. And so for women to be able to um, really affirm and accept that they're sexual beings, affirm and accept that God created their body beautiful, and that to allure their husband, for it to be a gift in marriage, to share with their spouse their pleasure and their presence. And yeah, so I mean, I think the counteracting the message um, that of just not being sexy or being sexy is bad. I think it's just accepting that God created you a sexual being, um, and to be willing to step out in that, explore that, become more comfortable with that. And so